Oh, hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Jorge's Isolation Podcast. I hope everybody's doing wonderful today. I am doing marvelous. I think today is the first time I have an actual family member on the podcast. It's my cousin, Brandon De La Garza. Brandon is mixed by Brandon. He is a producer, engineer, mixer, worked with a lot of great talent in the Houston area. He's produced some amazing music, and he's got an amazing journey because I've seen this young man since he was a little guy, to when he's now he's an adult doing a lot of cool things, really. So Brandon, welcome.
Guys, all the way from Houston, Texas.
Houston, we survived.
Man, last week was rough. Whole garage caved in. That was bad, man. I walked in there, it was like I ain't never seen nothing like that in my life. It was a water fountain coming. One of my pipes busted in 3 places.
Yeah.
And, I felt like a firefighter, man. I was out there, turning off water and trying to avoid the ceiling from caving in on me because it started to cave in. Luckily, it's all in the garage. But it's still a mess. So we can't, and I'm gonna start cleaning it now, but we still gotta wait for the insurance adjuster and it's a nightmare. But man,
did it freeze when it was like, because it's in your garage and it was still very, very cold? Did that water that was coming out freeze onto the driveway or in the garage at all?
So like everything in life, everything is a conspiracy, right? So what happened was we did everything right. Pipes were wrapped. Water was dripping, not just dripping, but a steady stream, little stream, all of them. So what happened was they lowered the water pressure, and when they lowered the water pressure, it allowed the pipes to freeze. And this is all happened within a matter of like an hour or two. And they pushed the water pressure back up, and it's like pouring, ice on water on ice, and it's cracked in 3 places. So it was rough, man, but.
Why would they do that? I mean, I think that whole week or the whole week was a lot of why. I think a lot of balls were fumbled throughout that whole week.
Oh, for sure.
All around.
I would probably honestly, 1 out of the 5 houses in our neighborhood had busted pipes, for sure.
Really?
Yep. Our neighbors did. As I was going out to, rewrap the outside pipe again, one more time, just to double insure it. As I'm doing that, I hear my neighbor's bust. And so I turn around and see his bust. So I run into his front door and I'm like, dude, your pipe busted. He's actually the one that let me know one of mine busted. So, and then, as I'm driving through my neighborhood, you could just see almost, it felt like every other house was just, had a pipe busted. Another neighbor I never even knew, I was trying to drive out the neighborhood and I saw him scrambling around his house. So I was like, man, I know what happened. Let me get off. And so I jumped out of the car and, try to help him stop it because I knew it was a busted pipe. And then later on, eventually I had some buddies come out and fix mine and his too. It was just like, it wasn't just like a few houses. It was 1 out of 5 houses, I would have to say, man.
Wow.
One of my students actually, his whole house was covered in 3 inches of water. He just bought that house, and so it was bad.
That's awful.
Yeah. All 3 of my students, the 3 of my students' pipes busted. So it just goes to show you, it was just so many people, And
and you're right. Like if the city was lowering pressure and then bumping it up, thinking that was going to help somehow, I don't know what the thought process was behind that. But it seems like, I was in New York for the last 8 years and like none of that happens. And I know like a lot of people from anywhere outside of Texas or anywhere in the north is like, oh, why is that happening to Texas? It's just like our houses aren't winterized. Like it is like if you're getting a house, usually in the north, the pipes are in the basement. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Ours are in ceilings. Right. You know what I mean? So that's a big difference up there. A lot of times it's not insulated as well. A lot of the houses aren't built for that kind of cold. Mm-hmm. And how many city workers are prepared for that? We're prepared for 115 degree. We're prepared for that. And then, whatever conspiracies people can think of behind that, or like, you know, was there money behind, you know, the ERCOT thing, or was there some kind of you know, miscommunication? Who knows what it is? It's, I mean, we could
Yeah.
go on about that. I mean,
Everybody, it's just about pointing the finger at this point. Yeah,
yeah,
everybody wants
yeah,
to point the finger, but nobody wants to
yeah,
provide a solution. And in life, and even in music and in acting, I've
yes,
adopted the methodology of never be the problem, be the solution. You know,
yeah,
and so you know, instead of pointing the finger, it's like, dude, just figure out how to stop this crap. You know, and
yeah.
so it's like, you know, it happened. You know, oh well.
What can we do? You know, like I mean, our governor, and this isn't like all politics. Like I'm not, it's not about Republicans or Democrats, because I just left New York, and you know how, well, New York, New Jersey. So we had Chris Christie as the governor for a
Yeah.
bit. And then, you know, Cuomo is dealing with all his stuff. But, you know, what's the name? Abbott here in Texas, like, man, that guy is very quick to point the fingers at everyone else but him. Like,
Yeah.
I still remember when I started this podcast, it was a few weeks after, you know, Abbott said we're going to reopen the state, and it was all um contingent upon the COVID cases, whether
Mhm.
they go up. You know, there he is. Hey, I see your big
Yeah.
guy there.
My mini me is right there.
Yeah, there he is.
Yeah. It's not here. Yeah, it's not. I threw it away.
I love
It's
kids.
empty.
It wasn't.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
I got to do this real quick. Give me a second.
Man, kids are awesome.
And I actually sat him down and had this whole this spill. Like, okay, Dad's gonna get on the internet for about 30 minutes. Got some important work to do. Yeah, I just do this whole thing, and it just is, you know.
Oh man, I get it. I totally get it, because mine, I have to lock the door, and that's because, like, you know, Rosa is watching her in the other room,
Yeah.
and like my mom will watch her too, but somehow, some way, they're so fast and so quick that like those kids will pop in. I don't know how many times I've had to like stop things, because if I was like here, like, yeah, so I'm in the club now. You
Yeah,
know?
dude. Congrats, man.
Thank
Welcome.
you. Thank you.
Doesn't
Yeah.
get easier.
No, it
Harder
doesn't,
and harder.
man.
It's new.
It,
It's a new level. I love it. I love being a dad. It's just the whole, you know, experience of every age. You know, he has his own personality now. Like, he's his own person, you know, and so
yeah.
it's interesting to see like what kind of person he's becoming and what he's developing, and you know, it's interesting. It's just a you know, he reminds me of me at the same time, because he does a lot of things that I do.
Yeah.
But you know, he's his own person. So
He's how old now?
he's 7. Yeah.
7 years old. See, that's so crazy. Mine is gonna be 2 in May. And one thing that I learned very, very fast was that um once you think you've got it figured out, once things start going a little smooth, reality hits you.
Yeah.
It hits you with something new, especially with sleep patterns.
Mhm.
Oh my God, bro. I could not, like, the I remember the first, it was like when she was like 3 months, you know, she slept through like maybe 2 months. No, it was 2 months, because she was still very small. She like slept 6 hours straight one night. And we're
Wow.
like, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And then the next night she did it again. And I thought to myself and Rosa, we were like, you know what? I think we've got a good sleeper on our hands. What's wrong with all these other parents? You know what I mean?
Right.
The third night, she was up every freaking hour on the hour, cluster feeding. She was just hungry. So yeah, and it's a blessing. I love kids, man.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I do.
It's so crazy. I just wrote an article because I have a new website, Jorge's House of Horrors.com. And it's just, you know, a mix of, you know, where I talk about horror movies, horror books, you know, cryptids and like paranormal stuff, and you know, true crime. And the article I just wrote was about a podcast that I listen to all the time. It's called Jim Harold's Podcast, Jim Harold's Campfire. And I thought about you and your mom, and when we were young, the article, well, the podcast itself is about like people calling in to Jim Harold right? And they tell like their ghost story that they had, like, you know what, Jim, there was this house that I grew up in, and blah blah blah, and there was a ghost in the closet, and only I could see it, like that sort of thing.
Mhm.
And part of this article was, I remember at when we were a lot young, like maybe like fifth, sixth grade, maybe younger than that. There'd be a point in the night, because for the people watching or listening, Brandon, I see him Christmas time only.
Yeah.
It's usually you come down for Christmas and you leave right before New Year's.
Mhm.
But it's always around that time, so there's always one big barbecue. There's always a good barbecue at our Theo Roy's house,
Mhm.
always. And the way I always painted this picture was that, the dads and the moms, the dads would be out, like, either drinking beer and talking about Lord knows what, and then the women would be over there, gossiping or whatever they would do inside. And it was just, that the kids were left to our own devices, and we would at some point be in a room where we're somehow talking about our ghost stories. And your mom always had the best ghost stories
Yeah.
ever, like a ton of them. She
Mhm.
had she said, like, I think your grandfather had an encounter with, like the lady in white on the side of the road. I just remember all these ghost stories, and like it just clicked, and it was just like literally half an hour before we started talking, like I just finished that, and I started to think about, like, do you remember those, that or like, because your mom
Yeah,
has a ton of stories.
my mom has some. I'm like, now that I'm older, and then I think about that, and I'm like, you know what? She was telling me this when I was Nico's age at 7. I would never tell my son none of these stories that
Yeah,
she tell me. I'm like, it was
yeah,
traumatic. Yeah,
yeah,
I couldn't come to, like, probably was in my late 20s, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe some of it was fabricated, or maybe some of it was, not true, or whatever. But it was
yeah,
enough to instill in my mind for a long time, like, like being afraid to sleep on my bed, whatever it may be.
yeah,
She had, yeah, so I don't
yeah,
know, like, I'm just, I don't know what to think about it. She has these stories, and it's like, uh, do I still believe them? Do I not? At this point in time, I'm like, there's no way, mom. There's no way. But at the same
yeah.
time, in the back of my head, I'm like, it could have possibly happened. She grew up in some very tough times, So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know.
No, I was thinking about that. I was like, man, like she had stories for days.
Hmm.
And then I remember there was like one time where, your mom was telling a story, and then our other aunt, our tia Gracie, came in, and she said, she told us a story about, like, I think she had like a German Shepherd or some mean dog that they had to have like tied up in the back with the doghouse and everything. And she
Hmm.
saw some creepy man sitting on top of that doghouse staring into the
I remember
window.
that.
You remember that? And the dog wasn't moving one bit, but the guy was just staring like with a sinister grin. And I was just like freaked out. Like, we were too young to hear these
Yeah,
stories,
I was way too young.
way
Yeah,
too young. But yeah, man, I was
I remember
thinking
that
about
story.
that.
'Cause the story was the dog was attacking everybody else except the man on top of the on
The
top of
doghouse.
the
And they
yeah.
and it's like, was it the devil? We don't know. It's just like, that's fun. I mean, like those memories are great. But yeah, no, I was thinking about that. Like, I was just writing that article right now, and I was like wondering if you remembered all that.
I
You
do.
know,
Yeah. Yeah. It's
that's
crazy.
funny, man. So what's been going on? During this year of COVID,
Mhm.
how's the music producing? How's, like, explain to everybody what you do,
Okay.
what you have
I'm a
done.
I'm an audio engineer to,
Okay.
so I do anything from recording the music to mixing and mastering it, which is basically getting the levels all right, putting the auto tune, putting the reverb, all the effects, all the cool little things, making sure all of the instruments and the sounds are at the right level. So when you're listening to it, everything sounds right. You're not going to be listening
Yeah.
and be like, oh man, the kick is too loud, the snare is too loud, the vocal pops out. We bring balance. What we do is we basically fix mistakes from the imperfections of the recording audio devices, and so
Mhm.
we can only capture sound to a certain extent, and then from there we just fix the problems, and then also, in kind of like tailoring it to what you do, post production, for audio, for video.
Yeah.
Um, I started teaching that. I'm also an audio instructor, so I teach, and then I have my own recording studio, and then I also do live sound. So all three of those are three different elements. And there's so much that goes into audio, like different businesses and different alleys of revenue that you can make a living, that I always try to tell people, like, there's so many ways to make a living off music. It doesn't have to be one directional. Like, I'm going to make music and blow up as an artist. I'm going to make music and blow up as a producer. I'm going to work with whatever I had to do, I did it, and it wound it up into the position that I am, to the position that I'm in, which was, the whole thing about, anything in the entertainment industry is it's just like this, right? It's always a wave. And then you're really just kind of looking for some consistency that has an uphill to it. Right. Yeah. And so I was just telling them, whatever you can do in the audio business, whether it's working on movies or working in the studio or working, doing live shows and concert and events, just make yourself, not one dimensional, make yourself, somebody who can kind of do it all. So you can always have a way of income, a way of finance and things like that. So, I would kind of project myself just as an overall audio engineer and audio instructor, but who dabbles in a little bit of everything. And, but, mainly I do focus on recording, have my own recording studio, and, just recording, mixing, mastering, getting stuff out there. And, I got to work with some pretty big people, and at the same time, just find a way to, be happy with what you're doing, and just consistency to where, things are busy,
Yeah. How did you get into this? Because I remember growing up, like, I mean, we never really talked about like music. And then I remember just over a couple of years, you got a little bit of equipment, and then you were rapping for a bit, and then, making music. I remember that early on, Cypreme.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you get into all that? Like that transit? It happened right after high school or during high school? I don't remember.
During high school, actually.
Okay.
At 16, I started rapping. I don't know where in God's name that I thought that I had any rap skill or whatever, but I started doing it. And at the time, just, I guess not a lot of people were doing it. So it wasn't like this flooded market of all these people trying to rap, but I was like, rapping when nobody else was. So I guess I felt like I was talented, you know what I'm saying? Like, so got into doing that, and then really was fascinated by the other side of it, which was the recording, putting the effects and things like that, and just the availability and the cost that it was taking, to do all that. I wanted to learn how to do it myself and be able to, find a way to, make a living off of it. And at the time, it was kind of a hobby. So I built my first studio at 17. It was at my mom's house, and it was inside of my bedroom. Had a little setup there, and the goal was still like, okay, run a studio business, because I saw some people doing that. We'd go to studios, I'd record, and I saw them making pretty good money. So I was like, well, let me just do this and charge $15 an hour or whatever, $20. And so I was doing that, and slowly but surely, as I started to attain more people who wanted to come and record, it started to build to where it was something that I was passionate about. And I was like, you know what, if I can make a living off this, I'm going to invest more into myself. So I built a bigger studio, and then I ended up taking over my mom's whole garage. Right. So we took over her garage, and I flipped that into a recording studio, invested more into myself. And it was perfect timing, because I always look back and be like, would I still be doing this? Probably not. Cause like the entertainment industry is always one of the hardest things you can get yourself into, because you have to be your own entrepreneur, whether you can't just say, I'm gonna be an audio engineer. Well, who the hell is going to record with you? You know what I'm saying? Like, nobody knows you. So you have to go out there and market yourself, promote yourself, have some type of portfolio with music. So when I started doing that, I decided to really go all in, and it was a perfect timing, because Houston started to pop off in the music industry. Huge. Huge. It became huge from 2006 to about 2010, I would say, maybe 2005. That's when Paul Wall came out, Mike Jones at the time, and, Big Pokey, and Lil Keke was already popping, but this was another elevation. And we have Bun B, and we have all these other Houston artists who started to, be marketed and projected all over the world from the, labels coming to sign them. I personally had artists and clients that were signing $1 million deals, because all these labels were flooding to Houston. And this time, this was before.
It was just Rap A Lot, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, no, it wasn't just Rap A Lot. Well, we kind of still had to go through him, for a little bit, so, but other than that, it was really a popping time for me. and everybody had the dream, like, oh, I could rap, I could do this and I could, do. So it was beneficial for me because I had the studio, and everybody would come and I would start recording a lot of people. And, it was just a very popular market. And this is before any social media came out. This was only during MySpace at the time was out. And so, yeah, it was a great time for me in the music industry to jump into it because, it really elevated and built the foundation. And then I honestly, probably after that, 2010, I would say 2012 to about 2016, during that time, it was a really, really tough time in music because it left Houston. People were kind of tired of the same sound, and so it went to Florida. And that's when you had Flo Rida come out and all those other guys come out. It was really popping with that pop, hip hop, rap music. And then it went, Atlanta,
Atlanta again. Yeah.
Yeah. But we could start over. It was New York, then it went to California, and then it went to Atlanta, and then came to Houston, then after Houston to Florida to Atlanta, to where now we're in a whole different market now. Now, I contemplated quitting music because studios were closing in Houston and people were falling out of business. And I was contemplating on quitting, but live sound saved me. I'll tell you that, because
really,
recording is a luxury for my clients. I only have a handful of clients that are like full-time artists who have to do music in order to survive, right? But the rest of them have jobs and have dreams. And so during that period between 2011 to 2015, I was struggling really, really bad. And then all of a sudden, this thing called social media popped off, right?
Yeah.
Now you can blow up without ever leaving the comfort of your home just through social media. I have clients who have a bank job that are getting over 3 million spins on Spotify, who make that as a third stream income and that are consistently coming to the studio now. I have guys that have 2 million followers. I have guys that have 100,000 followers, 50,000 followers. These big old these multi social media platforms to where brings artists consistency. And now everybody can do it from the convenience of where they're at. I don't have to go to New York. I don't have to go to California. I don't have to leave my house to get some exposure. And some people, they're not looking to be. I always tell people, you don't have to be a LeBron James. You could be a John Wall. You could be, whatever it is. You don't have to think about being the number one person. If you have a following, if you have 10,000 faithful followers that you can sell, when you drop an album and you have at least 10,000 that will buy your project, that's 100,000 a year. And so, there's so many ways that people can do it. So it's really been elevated to where it's brought so much consistency to me, to where, I'm very happy that I found success in it. But, it was just, you got to just kind of go through it and that things are going to work out. And I'm glad for it, and I enjoy doing it because it's something I'm passionate about, and started teaching, about 3 years ago. To be able to kind of pour back into people. And I found a lot of passion in teaching as well. So, it's kind of how it came up from. But yeah, I was an artist that transitioned to the audio engineer part.
Yeah.
It kind of worked out like that. I finally realized, okay, I don't think I'm the most talented guy on the rapping, but I can be talented on the engineer side. So I've really put my focus on that. And at about 27, about 26, 27, I hung up me rapping and just fully focused on becoming the best recording engineer I could, mixing and mastering. So
yeah, that's crazy. Like going back to like the social media thing, what like anybody can the availability, it's not just the social media too, it's the availability of the equipment and the ease of, you could do stuff with laptops. You can, microphones aren't as expensive anymore. The equipment, like a lot of people are able to do this when they wouldn't have been able to before. And do you find with that the work ethic might be different now? Because before, back in the past, like when you were starting out, or even in the 90s, you had to like hustle for studio time and make sure you made your studio time worth it, or else it wasn't going to be. Meanwhile, you have, a bunch of kids with money who, they convinced their parents to buy them a bunch of studio equipment. It's like the best way I can explain it is like, that sketch on SNL that was out a few weeks ago with Timothy Chalamet and Pete Davidson, where they're like their own little rappers and they're all about the yeet. And they have you seen that? It's like that. They're like just SoundCloud rappers. You know, how
Right.
is that affecting the industry? I mean, also, you
Um,
know,
so
how do you feel about that? Or
I'll tell you what, it's developing just broken famous people. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Like, I think people can become famous, but they're still broke. You know, and I think that's the mentality. And the one difference is like I could come to you and give you a physical copy of a CD, and it would almost force or engage you to buy it, right? But to go to
Yeah.
somebody and say, "Hey, download my music on iTunes for $9.99" is a much tougher challenge these days. Even though it's simpler to stream it, right?
Hmm.
But you know, it's just that one effect of having a product for somebody to purchase instead of having them to go online and make sure that they download it. But that doesn't stop the mentality to say you can stream my music. I honestly think at this time, if when people are starting off, I always tell them, you know, focus on content and consistency.
Hmm.
And what I mean by that is I like Russ's kind of mentality. I don't know if you know Russ. He's a very popular artist. And when he was able to drop his album, he already had like 100 songs for people to go to. His
Yeah.
mentality was you can't make a fan off of one song, right? It's kind of like
Yeah.
movies, right? You can't make a fan off one movie. It's like productively
Hmm.
a bunch of movies you're gonna build a fan base, right? And so the same thing, and I tell people that like you know when they shoot music videos, they're like, okay, I'm focused on getting 1 million spins on this one music video, and I'm like, well, where are you at right now? Like I'm at 50,000, right? So I'm like, drop another video. Your YouTube channel saying I have 1 million views on my YouTube channel holds the same substance as
Yeah.
I have 1 million views on one video. See what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So if you drop, you know, 5 more videos and then they were going back to other videos that they've never seen, those 5 videos will eventually accumulate to 1 million views, right?
Yeah.
And now you can say my YouTube channel has 1 million views or whatever it
Yeah.
may be. So there's a bunch of different ways to do it. It's just finding out how. And it's about again content and how you market that content and the consistency of it. And it's a pain in the butt, you know, but it forces the artist out of his element. They always talk about I need a manager, I need a manager, I need a manager. What the hell to manage what?
Yeah.
You get a manager to manage something. You have nothing that they need to manage. You see what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so you need a booking agent. That's different. You know, you need a what is it called? Not uh, I was telling them, you know, you need a booking agent, you get a booking agent. You need promotion and marketing. You can almost do that yourself through
Yeah.
social media.
Yep.
And I would say, you know, get people to, you know, get yourself to do all that stuff until you can find a manager to give them something to manage so you can't manage it at all. Right. I never
Yeah.
had a manager. I always had a, you know, and I was doing shows and, you know, getting paid 500, 400, 300, 150 for, they just needed 2 songs, 500 for a show. It was consistent, but I didn't want to have, you know, I didn't need a manager still. You know, I was just needed a booking agent for at the
Yeah.
moment. Right? And so she would book everything. She had the lingo. She would talk. She knew how to talk on my behalf. So yeah, that's one thing that I think that people get the misconception of. It's like, well, I didn't make it. I'm not making it because I don't have a manager. You don't need a manager. You just do it yourself until
Yeah.
you have enough content to where it's like, oh my God, I cannot handle all this crap anymore. I need a manager, right? That's
Yeah.
the purpose of all that. But you know, you can always hire different types of agents for different things, you know, but you know, just get to a place to where you're building up a true fan base. And you know, there's so many social media marketing tools to do that. And here's the main thing, do you have to have talent? No, I see a bunch of untalented people with a
Yes.
huge following
Yeah.
because they're hungrier than you, because they're putting in the effort to do things. And I
Absolutely.
always tell people, be weird. People
Yeah.
love weird.
Man, look at Takashi.
Yeah. He's one guy I use all the time, even though people hate him. I'm like, but still, he's.
You're talking about him.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like you can hate him all you want, but people are still talking about him. And the substance of like his songs isn't even like the rhymes aren't groundbreaking. There's nothing, you know, amazing about it, but he has that crazy voice, and it's that kid with the rainbow colored hair and the face tattoos and always starting some trouble with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same thing. Like I listen to a lot of these SoundCloud rappers, and like, you know, there's not much substance to like a lot of the rhymes, but the beats are catchy.
Look,
And
it's even
they're
smart to the
on social media. They're pumping it out.
like even the length of songs. Like songs don't go over
Yeah.
2 minutes and 30 seconds anymore. Like
Yeah.
everything, and that's another marketing concept because you're paid on Spotify by how many times a person listens to a song. If you have this 5 minute song, after I'm done with it. I'm ready to go on the next song. But you have this 2 minute song, I feel like you left me hanging. I want to listen to it again. I want to listen to it
Yeah.
again. So shorter songs actually have more play on Spotify than longer songs do because people are going to want to hear it over and over and over again. So I even tell my clients, make them shorter. 2.5 minutes is all you need. And then the mentality is they're going to keep playing it. That's more spins for you. That's more
Yeah.
change in your pocket at the end of the day. So, and when you listen to his
Yeah.
songs and everybody else's songs, they're not going above 3 minutes. For
Yeah.
sure. Some of them are a
It
minute and a half.
minute and a half. Yeah. Isn't that crazy how that's changing? I remember Chameleonaire had Won't Let You Down, the Texas mix.
Yeah.
17 minutes.
Yeah. I
17
wouldn't
minutes
even
of
listen to that now.
yeah. And I'm like,
My ADHD
man.
is going to kick it.
And then you listen to it for like how many bars? What were they? Each of them got like maybe 16 bars, maybe each of them did. And maybe the bars you wanted to hear from the artist that you wanted to hear it from is like 15 minutes into it. Or it's like the best part is when Pimp C is on, is like Atlanta Decide, that's gonna die, like it's like, oh man, but that's at the very end. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's so interesting. Did you ever think that the industry would be like this? Or when did it click for you that it was like, man, like I got to start rethinking everything that I built up and started learning?
I would say when my clientele started to become slightly overwhelming, and it was like, okay, well, why is it becoming like that? Is it's not like the music scene is in Houston anymore, because
Yeah.
you have all these young guys trying to rap again. And that's when I was like, okay, we have to be on a whole marketing thing now, and I started doing that more, and then raising the value of what I do. I think once you can't handle anything, you need to step up the bar of
Mm-hmm.
your cost. That's going to cut off a few people, and the people who won't believe in you, it's going to show you like, okay, they need to stay there and continue to pay the amount that you're valued at. And that actually helped me out because then I went to marketing strategy through social media. I haven't paid one dime on social media marketing because it's free. If you do it, you
Yeah.
can pay for it. If you can understand algorithm, hashtags, tagging, involving communication, 30% of my business now is strictly from Instagram and Instagram only.
Yeah.
So, I get new clients all the time, getting a website, just setting yourself, I always tell people, they don't like this terminology, but it's real. It's fake it till you make it. All right. They don't like
Yeah.
that, but I make it look like I'm this top honcho guy. Right. So my website, when you see my website, it's nothing's false. Like if I work with this person, it's because I have worked with this person, but it has this glamour to it to where it's like, I want to work with this guy because he has his ducks in line, right? And so personally now, like anything new, like they don't even have to hit my phone. They can do everything through the website, contact, book me through there. And, it really helps out my business and how I control things now. But yeah, it's just like, and I try to tell it to my students, like just I'm fortunate to be busy, but if you are in the studio and you have one session for the week, you need to be taking 10 different pictures, 5 different videos from 6 different angles. And then every day, Monday through Friday, you're dropping something like you're in the studio, like you have consistency, because people want to work with somebody who's busy, somebody who's working, somebody who's always at it, because I always have guys, man, how do I build on more clients? I only got a few this week. I'm like, just, dude, you have to keep pushing it, promoting it, and make it look like you're busy. And that actually makes people want to work with you. Like, man, this guy is doing it, man. He's got all this stuff. And then that's going to help you out, and so it's like just learning how to have content for yourself as well.
That's
and it's
fascinating.
helped out.
Yeah, no, it's similar because, both of our industries that we're in are changing drastically in terms of, like you said, like shorter form content is a little bit more king, as opposed to, like, people are more willing to watch a 45-minute show or an hour-long show as opposed to an hour and a half to 2-hour movie, which is funny because they prefer the hour-long show and will binge 7 of those episodes or 8 of those episodes back to back to back, turning into a 7-hour or 8-hour affair, but in
Right.
our minds, it's that much. And even taking it to the next step, it's you have, reels on Instagram. You also have TikTok, which is like 15 seconds to a minute long of content.
Right.
Whether it's a song that you hear. I mean, how many people became famous, musicians and, you know, people just in general through
Bro,
TikTok?
how many people became actors through TikTok?
Yes, through
Another thing,
TikTok.
like, or
Yes,
just through YouTube, shooting their own little mini films, and now they're doing commercials and they're doing different things. Like,
absolutely.
like,
Well,
dude,
I did a movie with one from
yeah,
from YouTube. I was in Bad Education, and in my scene, I'm with Jimmy Tatro,
right.
who we even talked about it. He was telling me about like how he got into, doing the YouTube sketch stuff. And he
Mm-hmm.
was doing that before everybody was doing sketches. Like, there's only like a few people early on, like maybe 2010, 2009, 2011, that were really doing the sketch comedy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Donald Glover and his group, the Derek Comedy, were doing it. The Lonely Island were probably original guys that were doing it, like Andy Samberg and all those guys. And then like he was popping in on that. And now, how many people are trying to be funny on YouTube or
Yeah.
trying to be, and now you're like, it's an uphill battle for a lot of people, but that content is what people are looking for, especially after the pandemic.
Right. It is an uphill battle. So it's like everything has like its timing, right? If you jump
Mm-hmm.
in, you're in this like stock market. If you jump in this time and you can cash
Yes.
out big, right? And
Yeah.
so now it's like, what's the next thing? TikTok is kind of running out of its time. So it's gonna be something else, right? And then
Yeah.
eventually, it'll be something else and something else. So it's like just hopping on that. I don't think YouTube's ever gonna go away. And so what I tell people is just give something to the audience that's gonna be of value at the end of the day. Like, what are you gonna get to them that's gonna be valuable
Yeah.
to watch at the end of the day? And the music industry is the same for the movie industry. It's like
Mm-hmm.
you can make money and never be in a big hit film, like so much. And then like all these Netflix shows that I watch now, actors that I've never seen, never heard before, like probably like 2010 and before, it's either you're in a blockbuster movie or you're in Blockbuster. You know what I'm saying? And so
Yeah.
there was like in between. Is either you're
Yeah.
you're in the big time movies or you're in a rental, right? And then
Yeah.
now Netflix really came and started doing their own shows, started doing their own movies, and all these actors who you've never heard about that are
Yeah.
popular. Some of them I've even researched, and I'm like, this dude was a YouTube star before he even
Mm-hmm.
acted in this movie, and that's how he, got his placement and things like that. And so it's
Yep.
like there's so much opportunity to have success. It's just about acting upon it, and it literally has nothing to do with your talent after that. It's just about what to do with the marketing aspect, with the promotional aspect, the intelligence of that, right?
Yeah.
Because I know there's talented rappers that have no ambition or knowledge of how to promote themselves, how to market themselves.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you need the whole package. You have to have the whole package in order to be successful.
Yeah. No, it's a thing it's very quickly becoming the norm with both music. I think music is harder than the visual medium, whether it's TV or film, just because it's just, how many people are trying like to record. And now like you're seeing the success. It's like I can imagine what you were saying when you said there was an avalanche of people coming to see you. When you hear a story about like, oh yeah, this guy, these kids got, several million spins on, what is it, SoundCloud. Like SoundCloud became really huge, so anybody could do it now. And
Right.
literally anybody could do it. And
Anybody.
it's just like, okay, well, anybody can do it, but like they can have, like you said, that one song. What are they going to follow it up with? Like what happened to Lil Pump? Like he hasn't followed up anything.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, people get to this point to where you want to be a one-hit wonder, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be, I think Baby Bash said it best. You want to be a 7-hit wonder, you can. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
Yeah.
You can do 7 and then so whatever you want to do. But if you want to have consistency, you have to have content and something worth giving people. And that goes for a lot of people. They don't know how to evolve, and some don't want to evolve, which is fine. Because I work with Lil Kiki, who is a legendary artist, will always be a
Don Kiki.
Don Kiki. But he told me, he's like, dude, I'm not going to change because I'm not going to be something that I'm not, right? Which is
Yeah.
fine. I don't expect to be him going into auto-tune and I'm trying to do all this auto-tune. That don't even look like him. He'll probably lose followers like that. But he sticks to the core ground, and he still charges $5,000 a show. He still does this and does that and has other marketing strategies to where he's making 6 figures a year and having a lot of success in what he's doing. Yeah, I think, it just all depends on what you're giving the people and how you plan to consistently give it to them, and if you don't want to evolve, that's fine, but you can find other ways. How does Lil Kiki still attain? Well, he still has people like fans like us and older. So he has product that he sells. Yeah.
From the 90s
product
even.
Yeah. Exactly. So
yeah, I remember Kiki and was it Swisher House and was it so Swisher House, the Screwed Up Click,
yeah. I'm working on a Screwed Up Click 2nd generation song right now. It's on the raps, but it's got Busy Bone, Lazy Bone, Crazy Bone, Bone Thugs and Harmony on it. It's about to be crazy.
Man, that's taking me back.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's gonna attain to the people who are from that genre. They'll listen to it, So
yeah, man. Like I remember just Houston, right out of high school. It was when I was in high school, like my junior, senior year. That's when New Orleans was really, really kicking it up.
Right.
With Lil Wayne, Cash Money. It was riding off that wave from Master P and No Limit. And then it went straight into right down I-10 into Houston, and I love that sound. And there's something that just can't be, it's not replicated to this day,
No.
And a lot of the beats you hear, like, man, some of these beats that I've heard, out there, they're good. You know what I mean? But I will not listen to rap like I used to. I don't feel as compelled. I don't want to say it's because I'm old, because I'll still listen to a good song, but I just haven't had anything where I'm like, like when I hear "Wanna Be a Baller," I can go off. I switched from Motorola to a Promco phone. Like I remember all those lyrics. There was a ton of lyrics in that song. When you hear like a song like Mo Bamba, what is there? What
I hate to cut you off. I just get so excited. The other thing what changed it is that we took the time to listen to lyrical content. Now people are about simplicity, right? They don't want to learn complex lyrics or anything like that, or they want to hear simple stuff because the simple person can do it, right? The same thing with auto-tune singers. It's like, we have these rappers who try to sing, they can't sing, but why does the crowd love it? Because 90% of that crowd can't sing either. But if they can sing along with what you do, it makes them feel comfortable with that, right? I mean, you love Mariah Carey, but I ain't finna be in my car trying to, sing like her in front of people. You know what I'm saying? But I can jam like,
I sound like her now. Her singing now, not like back in the 90s.
Right. Not back in the 90s though, but maybe now. But like even like with like if you're listening to Lil Yachty, you're like, I can sing Lil Yachty in the car and not be embarrassed in front of people because I'm on his level of his tone of voice. You know what I'm saying? And so I think simplicity has also, we live in a fast-paced world, right? We don't, nobody wants things complicated. Everything is got to be simpler.
Yeah.
And I think that's what hip hop is. And I don't even call these rappers. I call them more of like entertainers, right? And they have something. And again, I'm not knocking it because they still, it's value to the industry, whether people like it or not, and they bring some of the value that people want. If people don't want to listen to it, they won't listen to it, right? But they still do, because it's got value in some form of fashion, and it's simple. It's got updated content. I can't be rapping about switching 4 lanes right now. People would be like, the new generation, like, what the hell is that? You know what I'm saying? So,
that's an environment. That's an environmentalist nightmare. He's like riding on slabs, switching 4 lanes. What are you doing, popping trunk like that?
My grandfather's doing that. You know what I'm saying? So you have to be updated. Like, I have artists that come in, they say things, and I'm like, what the hell does that mean? Like, and then I got to ask him, like, break that down for me, because we would say it like this. It's funny, man. It's these young guys, man. I love them. They love me, and we have a lot of fun, man. Like, just hearing them, they just get so excited, man. You just put that little bit of auto-tune on them, and man, they can just have fun in there. They don't even write lyrics, bro. They don't even write lyrics. They come into my studio and I'm like, yeah.
I'm gonna send you that sketch, that SNL sketch. I'm gonna send you because what the premise of the sketch is, it has what's his name from the Roots crew, the drummer.
I know you're talking about. I know.
Yeah, with the big afro. And they're talking about the history of hip hop and the lyrical integrity and just everything about that. And then you have like Pete Davidson and Timothy Chalamet, and they're just like with the tattoos on their face, and they're like, it's just all about the yeet. And they're like, what? The yeet, when you yeet, and they're like, what are you even saying? It's like, man, you don't even know. And then they play like just like a simple beat. And it's just them yelling, yeet, 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 yeet. Mm-hmm. Whoa, hold on. Yeah. And it's just that. And it was like, it's one of the funniest sketches. But like at the end of the day, I was like, yeah, that's a funny song. They're making fun of that, like that whole generation. But like, I catch myself trying to sing that song. Right. And even though it's a sketch of a song, they're catchy tunes. Yeah. They got me.
Bro, I'm telling you, half my clients, they don't even write lyrics. They come into the studio and be like, I'm just going to get on mic and say whatever comes to the top of my head. And this is legitimately like that. And then they don't even have a chorus. They'll be like, well, pick a part and then make that the chorus. So I have to find like whatever is catchy, and I'll chop that and bring that. And then I'll just make that the hook for the entire song. But everything is just freestyle too. They want to come in there with styrofoam cup and everything and, have a little high, have a little buzz or whatever it is. And, and just go off the top of their head, and whatever comes to their head translates to the microphone. Like, it's legitimately like that. Like, nobody takes the time to write lyrics.
Have you seen in the last, like, I don't know, I would say 3 years. I mean, I know this past year probably was harder, but like in the last 3 years, it's like, you get a whole bunch of these, like you said, like they come in, they just want the Insta fame or like the SoundCloud fame, or just, want to have fun. But then you see one kid that comes in, notebook. You could tell that notebook has been through hell and back, and this person's thoughts and feelings and emotions are just, they bled out of that ink onto that page. Mm-hmm. And you're just like, wow, where's this kid at? And then they just disappear, or it's like something just happens and they just can't follow through. Like, does that happen still? Like, do you see like that there's that opportunity for that one, person to be or hold that lyrical integrity that you've seen in the past?
Man, I had one of my good friends. He's an artist, and I've known him since we were both coming up. He's younger than me, but we're, I'm 34, he's 30, but we were, he's been rapping. I've been working with him since he was like 18, right? Mm-hmm. And he was that guy though. And even today, he's still that guy. And then there's other guys, but I want to use him for an example because, man, I'll tell you what, like, it's very rare that I jump out of my seat when I hear people rapping. Like, I almost never do. Everybody jumps out their seat when I'm doing the effects and doing all this other stuff. Like, but he came in, man, he just started spitting, and I was like, man, I shot up out my seat. I was like, man, it made me enjoy the love of music all over again, because he was just lyrically just killing the microphone, like old school type, but it was still new school. Like, it had a whole new school flavor. But he's that guy. He's like, he'll come in, he'll just do some stuff, he'll release it, and he has like a steady following. But again, consistency, and content. That's the one thing that he lacks. And so I'm just like, man, if he stuck with that. But no, for sure, there's some guys who come in there, man, it's just like they're good, and then it makes me appreciate doing it all over again. People, honestly, engineers, we are the ones who make artists today. That's the truth. And that's why I'm as busy as I am, because people need that sound. They're looking for this sound, and they can't find it at no studio. And then when they come to me, I kind of project, and that's why us audio engineers are even into getting like mechanical royalties, because we're playing parts into the whole production process. I'm like, okay, well, let me try this on you, give you this sound, and create a product of them. And so, and I would say that started with it started way back when, we can always go back to, the auto-tune king, but what I'm trying to say, I really want to start with Travis Scott. Okay. Yeah. I forgot who I'm talking about, who's the auto-tune king, but I want to talk about Travis Scott.
Right?
T-Pain. Okay, yeah, I don't know why that name was slipping my mind, but T-Pain was auto-tune. He's really like one of the ones that really came out and over indulging into the auto-tune sound.
Mm-hmm.
T-Pain can actually really sing, but he used it
I heard
as
him on The Masked Singer.
yeah, he's dope. But he used it as a tool, and it brought him. It separated him, made him different, and that's what you needed. I think if he would have came out just trying to be a singer, he would have had some success, but not a success with overdoing the auto tune on him. So he was
Yeah.
pioneer of really auto tuning. But when Travis Scott came out with his stuff, like compared even like Future, they had this sound, right? And it's like this computer based sound with these effects going on their voice, but it's not something that they did. It's what the engineer did. People like me and his engineers and Future's engineers, we created that sound. They don't know what to ask for. They don't know, hey man, put 60% of auto tune, put flanger, delay set to 132 on the left, 1/16 on the right. They don't know none of those terminologies. We're the ones that indulge into that with our creativity and apply that, and we give artists their sound now. So that's one reason why I'm as busy as I am, and many engineers are busy at, because it's really the era of the engineer, right? It's the time where we are, it's like you, I want to work with this, producer. I want to work with this director, because you know that they can portray an image that you want to be a part of, or even give you an image, or even, it's all about having that right movie to give you that image that you've been looking for, and so,
or even cinematography. Like if we want to like actually make a good comparison of engineer to filmmaker, or it's, I would say, a cinematographer. I mean, Blade Runner 2049, Denis Villeneuve like made that look awesome. That his directing was awesome, but it was oh my god, I think it's Jenkins, who is the cinematographer. My film people are gonna kill me for blanking out on this. Luckily, I have a phone, but like it looked freaking awesome, right? Or if you look at anything that Cuarón did or Iñárritu did, they're gonna like, oh yeah, that it was, of course, it was directed because the content was there, and it looked beautiful because of Chivo. The DP. Looking this up right now because man, all my
I'll piggyback
Roger Deakins. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna get a bunch of hate mail from all, because I have a lot of cinematographer friends, and he even has a podcast like In Deakins We Trust. But like you got to trust them. And like one thing that I learned, which is something I like you said, like what artist goes in there and knows everything that you were talking about, all the terminology for like you want this over here on this side, and this percentage of that. For me, I don't know anything about lenses or the lighting, and a good DP will know all of that, and a good director. And that's the thing, like in music, I think that people are like, very few artists in the music industry are like that now, from what I understand. Is like they don't know, like, if you're going to transition it, or like just use it as the same terminology for film, like they don't know lighting, film, lenses, like that would capture that moment. When you have an artist like that comes in, that guarantee you that makes your job easier. Like, this is what I want on this, can we do that?
Right. And even like ADR and Foley. I mean, when I started teaching that, I realized my whole life was a lie in the movie theater. I'm like, dude, so when he shot that gun, that wasn't really the audio from that gun. That was, no, it was ADR, sound replacement. Man. And that was fascinating. So it's like, man, how to make that realistic and come to life. Like, and I actually had, at the end of my semester, I have my student, we do a post-production where they take a 2-minute film, they completely wipe out the original audio, and they have to replace it with their own Foley, their own ADR, their own sound replacement. And then I grade them off of that. And it's like one of the funnest things ever. Now I can only imagine doing that on a 2-hour, 3-hour movie or whatever, but 2 minutes, it's hell trying to do 2 minutes of ADR and Foley. But man, just realized like, this is what separates the boys from the men, and
Yep.
and it comes to, because like you said, you can see so many movies or short films with bad audio, or even fake audio. I'm like, that was not a gunshot. That was like some tomatoes hitting the ground or whatever. It was like, or the gun wasn't realistic to. It was like a 9mm shooting, but it sounded like a 50 caliber. You know what I'm saying? And so just making sure you take the time to understand. Even if I'm going to do a gunshot, what type of gun are you shooting, so I can re-emulate that with the right size bullet, to make sure I can give the best representation of the sound, and so it's fascinating and all that.
Yeah, no, that's the thing that a lot of people don't think about. Guns, you custom built guns, and that's the thing. Like I'm listening to that right now, and I'm like, man, I wouldn't have never thought of that. I would have just used some kind of stock gunshot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's like a lot of people,
like a little pistol, and it goes, boom.
He goes, bah,
yeah.
Because I've been in a few scenes where, for one, I remember there was an Ang Lee movie, a really big movie, and they had already shot it, they already done it, and they just didn't like the way that the one actor's voice sounded delivering these lines, and they were casting just the ADR for his voice.
Wow.
Yeah. And that happens, that happens all the time. Or maybe the actor's not available to do the ADR, so they need someone whose voice sounds very similar.
Yeah.
I've done ADR for a couple of TV shows where it's just I'm watching on the screen, and you can tell, like, oh yeah, they messed up recording there. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm back here in the studio, which is crazy. But yeah, no, it's a crazy. I think your options in sound are just limitless at this point.
Right.
I mean, especially what you've done with the work you have under your belt.
Yeah.
Is there something you want to do, like break into film? Like, would you ever score a film or anything like that?
Absolutely. Now, scoring, I'm not as much as a producer in the music part. I kind of stepped aside from that. I could do some scoring if needed, but don't look for me to like, all right, hey, we need you need Hans Zimmer or something like that. Don't try to hire me. But even with that, I noticed the budget friendliness of that. And when I say that, is because you don't need to go and hire 60 piece orchestra anymore. Now you actually have all that in your production, and one person can do that and create the whole vibe for the entire. One person can do the whole score. There is that is something I want to do. Just like jump into, I think at this time and age, like it's, if people ask me to do it, I want to jump into something that's pretty big, you know what I'm saying, or at least has a potential to be big. That's something I would be passionate about, learning how to really just capture the sound that people want to portray. Because anytime I listen to music or I watch something, I want to receive it how I feel like it should be. You know what I'm saying? And that's in a sense to where it's like, if I'm the audience, how do I want to hear this, right? Or how do I, especially when somebody's walking from one side of the scene to the other, that needs to be automation and panning. You need to hear that. It shouldn't just be sitting. You need to give the whole 3-dimensional feel in the film. So I definitely like it, and it's something I do want to tap into. So if you ever shoot a movie, I'll be your guy to do all of this ADR and sound replacement and all that too. I have a whole crew too. My students make them work. So
no, I would like we'll talk more during Christmas time, but I have several ideas, and the ideas really were birthed from, I have a web series that I had shot years ago. And it's like a funny story between me and my buddies, because it was like the failed web series that kind of like, it was almost like a blessing in disguise. Because of its failure, it led me to understanding more of what I needed to learn, what I could perfect on that project. And it's like, I don't want to say that the project completely was just a total wash. I'm not going to wipe my hands clean of it. I know it'll come back in some sort of shape or form, whether it's like a short story collection, which I'm working on right now, or a TV series, you know what I mean? And one of the biggest things is it's horror, and horror is so sound driven,
right?
And visually and audibly.
Mhm.
And I'm not talking about just jump scares, but if you look into every little good sound design of a horror film, it'll lead you to those feelings of fear.
Right.
Like one of the most famous things, when Jason is stalking, when you hear that,
Yeah.
someone's is there, or you hear the strings going,
Yeah.
like, and there's always like something there guiding you. And I've always been interested in that, and how some of the best movies just have such subtle sound cues that guide. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And like one of the
Transition points. Yeah.
yes, great transition points. Or there was like one of my favorite sound cues, or in a movie, was in The Invisible Man that came out last year,
Mhm.
and it's in the first like 5-10 minutes of the film. And Elizabeth Moss, she's like leaving, she's trying to escape, this guy who's just an abusive husband, and she hates him, and she kicks the dog's bowl. And that sound, because it's such a quiet house, she's tiptoeing everywhere, and she kicks the dog's bowl, making the loudest noise ever. And I
Mhm.
heard this, I saw this was the last time I was in a movie theater, and it was in a Dolby theater. So like the sound was everywhere. It's like perfect sound design. You know what I mean?
Right.
That, and also Interstellar sound design and soundtrack.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It was. That's one of my favorite movies. And people, that's a boring movie, but I'm into galaxy space
Let me tell you,
observation.
with
Like
that
I'm so.
being said,
Mm,
I remember one of my fondest memories of going to the movies was on like July 3rd, I don't know, back in the 90s. And Nora, my stepmother, and your aunt,
mm.
took us to see Independence Day.
Oh yeah.
One
Yeah.
of the my favorite movies of all time.
When
I
I walked
remember
out,
that.
it was the greatest movie I've ever seen in my life.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. The greatest movie you've ever seen. I remember you
Yeah.
saying that. What was it about that movie?
Oh man, everything. I think from
You like Will
I'm
Smith a lot.
I do, but he's been doing some weird things lately
Yes.
where it's like I don't know, bro.
When
Like, come
rich
on,
people
bro.
become too rich and they're bored.
They're too smart for themselves. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
Yes.
Like they're so smart they make this ultimate smart decision to do a movie like Gemini and it completely fails. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like,
Yeah. I
okay,
went in for that movie.
you're out thinking yourself. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Go back to what you won. Go back
Mm-hmm.
to what made you a winner. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And so, but yeah, I still think he's still one of my favorite people. You know what I'm saying? In general, like with his enthusiasm and his go-getting mentality, I have adopted a lot of his methods into what I do, into how I, carry myself every day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think one thing from that movie was the feeling of, um, I don't know, it's something about the victorious feeling, you know what I'm saying, of
Yeah.
overcoming when everything is against you, and you find a
Yeah.
way. And so I think that's always great, and I think that's what movies are about. There's good guys
Yeah.
and there's a bad guy. There's a
Do
good
you
guy and
think
a bad guy.
with that scenario happening in 2021, like say if,
Mhm.
I don't know, 2 days from now, alien spacecraft decides to enter our atmosphere, hover over the White House and every other big Capitol building in the world, with all the political turmoil and disagreements we have, like with the big countries, like China and Russia and us, and the UK, like all these countries, or even like Israel and Palestine, with all these disagreements, do you think we would ever say, you know what, we're going to join together against this one common enemy that
Mhm.
has invaded our territory? Or do you think there's going to be countries that are going to try to parlay meetings with the aliens so they can join them to destroy us?
I think I think first off, the aliens are coming. This would be the time because we're all disorganized. We're all divided right now, and
Yeah.
they probably need to. If the aliens were to come, they'd probably try to either do things, rule us because we're too stupid, or get us in the right path because we're too stupid. I think
Yeah.
people don't understand how. tact. So like you said, I know a lot about guns. I do a lot of tactical training, and
Yeah.
and then I read the Bible. So I learned this one thing: if you cannot conquer your enemy, you always say if you can't conquer them, join them. But the real secret is, the real devil's secret is, if you can't conquer them, divide them.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It's simple. I cannot defeat this enemy, but I can tell, hey man, that director there said you suck, or man,
Yeah.
this guy, I think you're better than him and you should have this job. And so everybody starts building up these feelings of animosity and resentment and envious. And then and I'm better than you shouldn't be doing this. I should be here. You should be there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the greatest deceit you could ever have. And that's the best conquer you could ever have. And I think China won that against America, if you want to ask me, because they, figured out how to divide us as a country completely. Yeah. And it's our fault. We have loose strings. We have people in political positions that you question. I'm like, dude, you're like 80 years old or she's 80 years old and you're acting like a child. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're acting like, old, like, number one, I don't think if you're above 75, you should be serving our country and making decisions for our future. Okay. I think once you hit 75, you need to retire and enjoy the rest of your life. Don't be trying to change the direction of us. You're too old. Your brain deteriorates at that time, no matter what. Like, you ever heard of you can't change an old dog, old dog, old ways.
Yeah.
They're stuck in a way that they can't change. And then, they're just, it's just not healthy. Like, our grandmother, she's, she could be running no country at no 75 years old, or older. So, I think there should be an age limit. You know what I'm saying? Number one, I don't think people above a certain age should be making our decisions. But going back to the point in subject, I mean, I posted this on social media the time. I was like, we're going to be conquered by 5 different things. It's either going to be aliens, some virus, Skynet, Walking Dead. But at the end of the day, we are going to destroy ourselves by our own demise.
Yeah.
And so eventually, it's not even going to take aliens to do that.
I think if you go back to what you're saying about, like, and I agree with you totally about the politicians, how there should be term limits on how many times they can serve.
Right.
Because there's some people that have been there for 30, 40 years. They're never going to change their thinking. And it's kept a lot of people behind. But aside from the politics and all that, you're correct. Like The Walking Dead, if you look at that TV show, it's a TV show about zombies. And zombies are supposed to be the big enemy. When you think about The Walking Dead, it's the zombies who are the bad guy. We're running from the zombies. But in reality, the real villains are the people that are not zombies. It's the humans surviving. We are our own enemies. We are always, like, you can see that there's that whole common cause there of zombies, these infected walkers, trying to take over the world. And there's none of them are always like looking for cures or anything. They're just fighting with the next tribe over.
Right.
Meanwhile, you could join tribes and try to defeat this, or try to like come up with like a solution to it. And I agree with you. Like, we would be our own enemies, our own worst enemies at that. I mean, just look at this whole last year. Dude. It was going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And it's kind of like, man, like, within every one of these issues that happened, no matter on what side of the aisle you were on,
right?
It's just like, we're missing points here. Like, like, this is the whole issue. Like, it's so crazy how, people get so drawn to like group A and group B, or Republicans or Democrats.
I'm going to point the finger. Like I said, don't be the problem, be the solution.
Yep.
Absolutely. And the problem is not like blaming this person for why this. What the hell are you doing? Right? What are you doing for your people? Like, what are you doing? Like, And so at the end of the day, it's like, dude, just help people, And if you're struggling, I need to help you. Doesn't matter what side of the party you're on. If we're not for each other, then we're easily going to be conquered by even another country eventually, And so, it sucks. We live in a time where America is divided. It's embarrassing to live in this country. at this
Yeah.
time. I still think this is the greatest country to live in, period, because I've been to
Yeah.
other countries. I've gotten to travel the world doing music and whatever, and I've
Yeah.
gotten to, meet a lot of people. But this is still the greatest country to live in. But we just got to get it together, and or we're gonna destroy ourselves, because the world knows America is number one. Like we
Yeah.
will kick the shit out of anybody. Anybody starts speaking. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like we will destroy anybody, because we have people fled to America because they were in bondages of their own countries, right?
Yeah.
We could pay them what their own countries could. And that's why you have people like Tesla's company. Let's compare
Mhm.
Tesla and NASA. All right, why is SpaceX ahead of NASA? Well, NASA's budget is not Elon Musk's budget. They can pay their experienced engineers 100 grand, and Elon's like, I'll pay you $1 million. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And so it's like we can acquire the best doctors. They come here because we
Yeah.
can present them the value of what they're worth, right?
Yeah.
That's why this is still the greatest country on the planet, except, we just got to get it together. And again, it trickles down, right?
Yeah.
If you're fighting at the top, the rest of the country is going to be in chaos, right?
Absolutely.
With riots, whatever it is, you're bitching about this, and then you're going to get mad because people are doing this. I was like,
Yeah.
it starts with you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Whatever you're doing, whatever comes out of your mouth, you are responsible for it. You know what I'm saying? And it's
Yeah.
unfortunate. You got to live on glass, but that's the responsibility you take on,
Yeah. I just saw like what you're saying is like it starts from the top and trickles down. And we had our whole winter storm, and the big news during that week was our rep Ted Cruz decided to go to Cancun. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Amidst this whole like state, disaster. And like a lot of people are saying, well, he doesn't need to be there, but he is our rep. You know what I mean? But someone else posted something, said, well, the same people that are getting mad about Ted Cruz leaving didn't care when Nancy Pelosi went and got her hair done after saying to stay away from those places. For me, I
Right.
was mad at both
I was
because
mad at both.
both of them are supposed to represent us, no matter if they're
Mhm.
Republican or Democrat, and they both went against what their duties were.
Right.
Maybe Nancy Pelosi couldn't solve COVID. Maybe Ted Cruz couldn't fix all the pipes or the ERCOT situation that week, but we need them to show face that they're there, at least trying to do something, trying to pull
Right.
strings, other resources from other states or whatever. And
Right.
I feel like there's like a lot of people that have let us down
Mhm.
from up above. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
a crazy time. And with that being
No.
said, what do you see, your industry in the next 5 years, seeing how, you know, we've had the pandemic. So obviously a lot of live shows have been killed. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And so exposure for artists, music festivals, live music events, South by Southwest, a lot of those music festivals, they were dinged. And I'm not sure if they put limits on, your studio hours or whatever the restrictions were in Houston. But as the industry opens up because of COVID, the vaccines are going to be out there, and people are going to feel a little bit more comfortable. I'm pretty sure within the next year, our country's going to open up a lot more. How's that going to affect your industry, do you think, in terms of, is it going to be solely a social media thing, or now the one key aspect that a lot of performers forget is like, yes, it's social media, like you said, it's
Mhm.
going into the studio, but then the one thing that they were missing the whole year was live performances. Do you think that's going to be a new key, or are we drifting away from a lot of that?
No, I think once it comes back, it's probably going to come more full fledged than ever.
Yeah.
You can't stop that experience, right?
Yeah.
It's like you know when they start hosting football games and basketball games where you
Yeah.
can have 100% capacity, they're going to come back.
Yeah.
It's the human nature to be a part of something bigger than yourself, right?
Yeah.
And so going to shows, like my stepdaughter, she loves to go to shows. She was devastated when they cancel all this stuff, but when they come back, she's going to be one of the first ones to be going back to the shows, because it's the whole environment, the whole vibe.
Mm-hmm.
People fiend for or FOMO, whatever you want to call it, fiend for that, um, excitement. I think concerts deliver that more than just listening to the song, right?
Yeah.
Concerts draw a connection. Music is the most powerful substance in the world. It is.
Yeah.
Next to comedy, right? I
Yeah.
mean, just think about it. If you can make your enemy laugh, they're not going to kill you as much. If you can
Yeah.
make the enemy fall in love with your music, they're not going to,
Yeah.
it's a common ground with the human nature of people. It's laughing and music. There's nothing else, because you go argue about everything else, right? But if you can make people laugh, if you can make people listen to the same music as you, that's
Hmm.
always going to be that common ground. And that's something that is so divine that you can't change that. Like, if anything, it's just going to continue to grow and find a way to become better.
Yeah.
So I think when it comes back, it's going to make a strong, full-fledged back. A lot of my fellow engineers were out of business because a lot of them were traveling engineers, and so they really took a hit. I was just grateful that, again, I was flexible. I'm not just a live sound engineer, and I'm not just a studio engineer, and I'm not, I have different ways of streams of income because I'm able to do that.
Hmm.
So I was very lucky that even during the pandemic, I was still able to find, financial income because I was able to still teach, through Zoom, and, still take on somewhat of studio clients, once the whole thing started to bring back to capacity and things like that. And then work from home. I was able, people were sending me their music and I was just mixing and mastering it from home.
Yeah.
So I was able to find some, stability through that. It was a struggle, but still,
Yeah.
a lot of guys got hurt through that, so they're excited. I'm pretty sure they're looking to come back, and it's going to be big. It's going to be huge. And I don't think as far as where it's going, man, it's whoever has the next creative idea of being able to reach an audience. And I don't know what it is because that's not my gift. As far as like stage performance and like bringing a whole show, because when you go to a
Yeah.
concert, like one of like people talk about is like Drake's concert. Like he makes it like a whole movie. Like when you're in
Yeah.
the concert, like every song has a purpose. It's not like, hey, just play this next track. No, it's like it's going to be these 6, 7, 10, 12 songs in this specific order because it's going to tailor, and I'm going to have this whole setting like where from the first song to the last song, every song ties together like in this whole script that he has.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's always just the next innovative thing. Lighting has become huge for concerts, and you have the right lights, you have the right um, people. It's limitless to what you can do, and so
Yeah.
yeah, I'm curious to see where it goes, but I
Yeah.
know it's going to have a lot of success when it comes back.
Oh man. Yeah, no, I'm curious too, because of my industry, which is uh, something that just like yours, it's become more attainable in terms of like ability to get your hands on equipment. Like, if you have an iPhone or a good, Android phone, the cameras on these phones are incredible. They
Mm-hmm.
shoot in 4K. They're also making lenses for these phones, so you can have different aspects, different ratios. You can have, a zoom lens. You can have a fish lens. Like, it's just like so many different options you have. They even built stabilizers, so
Mm-hmm.
you can like walk around and shoot like if it's like a just like a steady cam almost.
I want to buy.
And
I want to buy all this stuff in my next.
exactly, like same here. And a lot of people are making, like, they've made movies off of that. And like even during the pandemic on the Shutter app, which is the horror app, they have a movie that was shot on Zoom. They shot it on Zoom. And so it's just different people, shooting, their side of the story, and they edit it all together. And
Nice.
it's just the future is constantly changing. So it's just always interesting to see what we think, because a lot of times it's not what we think it's going to be. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like, would you have ever thought that MySpace would have been basically the ground level for, the music industry that it is today, for like Instagram or Spotify? Like that driver's license song, wasn't that a Spotify song? Or she was a YouTuber. How many people have we seen become famous because of YouTube songs?
No, right. YouTube. yeah, and Spotify, it's crazy. It's scary too. Like everything that comes out, it's like, oh, I can do this. I can
Yeah.
trade stocks on my phone. I can,
Yes.
do everything on my phone. You
Yeah.
never have to leave the comfort of your house if you have your phone. You don't even need a TV. You can watch. I have cable on my phone, so
Yes.
I think I always tell people, just be innovative. App development. You know, the future of the iPhone is always going to be there, and whatever phone that comes out. And so what can you
Yeah.
do? You need to develop something that people need, like they need water, right?
Yeah.
Don't give them, I always tell people, give them a necessity, not a luxury, right? Because
I
people
like that.
will buy, yeah, like I need to develop something, like I need this, like I need water. I need my iPhone as much as I need water.
Yeah.
My life is in this iPhone,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Right? It's got, like, look at this. Like, I haven't even been on it, and I have people hitting me up already. Like, and
Yeah.
so it's this has been my moneymaker. It has been
Yep.
the communicator,
Hmm.
and so just think like that. Like, okay, give something that people need, and
Yeah.
value at the same time, and
That that's
affordable.
so true. It's crazy
Mhm.
because when we moved, so self-taping auditions was kind of a thing before I moved. And I remember I had some agents that wouldn't work with me because I was moving. They said self-taping wasn't a thing. That was December, November of 2019, saying like, you're moving, but we can't work with you. I mean, you have to be present for, auditions and everything. And, self-taping does happen. Like, say if you're in New York and they need something for LA, they'll do it rarely. Then the pandemic hit, and everything I do is self-tape now.
Right.
Everything everybody's doing is self-tape now. They're
Mhm.
doing studio sessions, or they're doing like tests through Zoom, meaning like within that was November of 2019 when they said like, yeah, no, self-taping is not going to be a big thing that you could do, that would
Mhm.
help you out.
Yeah.
Till March, it became everybody. So it
Right.
was not even 5 months. You know what I mean? It's
Wow.
like
Yeah, that's
five, six
awesome.
months. It changed, and now everybody has to do Zoom, meaning you can do an audition from anywhere.
Mhm.
Whether it's in Houston, Texas, if it's in McAllen, Texas, Mission, Texas, uh, Iowa, no matter what. And that's like one thing people couldn't even see 5 months into the future
Right.
that everyone was gonna like. We're forced
So
into
how does
that.
that work? They send you the outline, the pilot, the
It's it's
lyric. I
it's
mean,
exactly it's exactly like a regular audition. They'll send the breakdown, like the character breakdown, a little bit of info on the show itself, and then the scene, the sides, and then you record it with a reader. It's usually Rosa or whoever's available. We shoot it on on my phone usually, and I'll edit it. Like, not even edit it. I just have to like put like, oh, scene one, or like, save the
right.
file, and I just submit it to my agents and they send it to casting. Because at the end of the day, casting's just going to look at tapes anyway. The studio's going to
Right.
only look at tapes anyway,
And it's
so
convenient.
that's
They could do that in their pajamas, right? And just, instead of having,
and
I gotta get this, everybody's got to
eh,
be there.
yep. And what happened during the pandemic is that a lot of casting offices realized, what? We can do this anyway if there wasn't a pandemic, because now we're saving money,
Flying people.
on rent.
Yeah.
Like say if you have to have a casting call, you're still paying rent for the building that you're holding auditions at. Like I was there in New York for 8 years. I was acting professionally for six, and I basically saw about two or three, maybe four different casting offices switch locations each about two or three times
Hmm.
because the rent was going high. Now they don't need to worry about that.
Hmm.
They could do it from home, like you said, and look through
Yeah.
the tapes and submit it to the network, and boom. And if they do need to have like an in-person like callback or anything like that, they can rent the space for like the day. And that's a lot
So,
cheaper than or rent it for a few hours. That's it.
so I have a question, and
Yeah.
I've been very curious about it, because I think the gates of the music industry has spread open in the film industry, because now you don't, it's not
Yes.
just like Hollywood, Paramount. Now it's like
Mm-hmm.
Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, and all these Tubi, whatever it is,
Yep.
they're coming out with their own corporates of shows and movies and episodes and all these things. It's
Yep.
like, so how does one be able to tap into those different markets, since there's so many? Like, you don't have to really be, you know, this star character. Like, people can, I remember like when Walking Dead has birthed how many stars? Jesus
Yeah.
Christ! Like, I look at it and I'm just like,
Yeah.
it's it's like they're all in Marvel now. You know what I'm saying? And so it's
Here the
incredible.
thing you got to think about the Walking Dead is also location. Walking Dead
Mhm.
shoots in Atlanta. If a
Okay.
lot of those stars or those people were no names in Walking Dead, like they were just unknowns and they were in Atlanta, then they probably know the Atlanta casting offices. And that's why they got into Marvel, because all of Marvel shoots in Georgia
Okay.
or in
I didn't.
North Carolina. Yeah.
So they don't shoot
So
in LA at all?
no, a
Mm.
lot of places do not shoot in LA anymore because before COVID, the taxes were just too high. They weren't getting any tax breaks. Everyone was going to Georgia or Louisiana or New Mexico. That's why you see a whole bunch of shows like Breaking Bad, like totally capitalized on Albuquerque, New Mexico. You know what I mean? So like Texas was that third option aside from New York and LA for a long time, but we got rid of tax incentives. So the film industry said, you know what? We do like the South and how cheap it is. So we're going to go, since Texas doesn't want to give us the tax breaks, we're going to go to New Orleans, or we're going to go to, Shreveport in Louisiana, or New Mexico. So the states, all like every state around us shoots now. So New
Okay.
Orleans, so Louisiana, Arkansas, True Detective shot in Arkansas this past season, or like the latest season. Oklahoma, they're shooting stuff in Oklahoma, New Mexico, no, South Carolina, Georgia. They're really opening it up. Pittsburgh was a big spot. I shot a pilot in Pittsburgh, and they have a film industry going on there too. So to answer your question about getting involved in it, like there are resources like Actors Access. You can pay a little bit, like, and like before people say, well, you shouldn't pay to play. Well, it is the industry standard. Actors Access is breakdown services, which is basically where you get all the breakdowns from everything. You just won't have the same kind of, you won't be able to see exactly what agents or people in the industry, like producers or agents or managers would see, but
Hmm.
you will see breakdowns that can build up your reel. You know what I mean?
Right.
And unfortunately, you still do need representation
Hmm.
to get into bigger rooms. You know what I mean? Like you still need
Hmm.
a manager and an agent. But what I've learned in my move from New York to Texas is that there's great agencies in Texas, in Louisiana, in Albuquerque, in Georgia, in Florida. Like there's good agencies that'll get you into the door, get your foot into the door.
Right.
So it's,
So,
it's
like,
definitely attainable.
let's say, when Netflix started to shoot their own movies and things like that, like,
Mhm.
they weren't getting the big stars. They were starting like very like stars who were in big movies, but not the big character. Like,
Yeah.
What's his name? Pena. I think he,
Yeah.
um,
Michael Pena,
they were
but yeah.
having like Michael Pena, like subpar stars, like in the beginning too, like in
Yeah.
the beginning of like, we're gonna start doing Netflix movies, and they
Hmm.
started getting, and then
Hmm.
just casting people. So did they go through the same channel, or is it like, hey, we're
Yeah.
gonna do our own thing, and people can find us through our own thing,
No, it's the same
or how
channel.
does?
The same channel.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
But
cool,
you got to remember, like Netflix started that whole big Netflix was the big disruptor in the industry.
right,
House of Cards was that show that changed the game, because
hmm,
House of Cards was the first big Netflix production that came out. It was like 2013 that really put the industry on its head, because a SAG contracts didn't predict this success of
hmm,
House of Cards. They didn't predict, like, because Netflix is considered new media, which is like YouTube, which is new media, meaning it wasn't on a TV screen or on a movie screen. It's on the
Right.
computer or on
Right.
your phone. So their contracts before, like when that came out, I remember I did a show in 2015. So it was still like in the infancy of, their original content called the characters. And I got paid half of what I got usually get paid for, a day player spot on a big network. And I
Hmm.
wouldn't even get residuals for that first project I did for Netflix.
Right.
SAG caught on to that really quick and realized, what, we need to change things up. We need to renegotiate the contracts. They're still not that great, but
Mhm.
I think Netflix will pay out a lot more for bigger stars, and they would rather have smaller stars.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? They would
Right.
rather have a smaller star so they don't have to pay them as much, so they can pay, like I think for
Because they're gonna have
what
the viewers regardless. Like,
exactly, you're gonna have the stars.
they have 100% control on what people see on their content. I want you to see
Absolutely.
number one. This is number one. This is number one. You're gonna end up
Hmm.
clicking on it because they're saying, "Hey, this is the number one movie on Netflix."
Yep.
Like,
And it's huge. And like I think like with Will Smith, he did that movie where he was an orc,
yeah,
a cop.
I
Was
know.
it Bright or something
Right.
like that? Or
Right. Yeah.
and he got paid like 37 million for that. And they're saying like, yeah, that's a lot, but he's not going to get anything in the back end.
Right.
So he kind of got paid a lot of the residuals up on the front end. And that's how Netflix was working with a lot of people. I don't know how that's changed. I'm not getting paid like Will Smith, but I know
Right.
that I'm not getting paid a lot if I were to book a Netflix show. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Anything that's not network, anything that doesn't have commercials on it, you're not going to get paid as much, or the residuals are going to be really weird, because also Netflix doesn't. It's hard. Like when I get um like Chicago PD, that's on what, NBC, I guess.
Hmm.
When I get residuals, I'll see like how it's broken down, whether it's, like cable use, or it's reruns, or it's, foreign, or, domestic, or like VOD, like someone wants, like I could see it broken down. Like with Netflix, it's kind of like they don't really, it's just, you're just going to stream it. So
Right.
they're still trying to figure out how to properly, you know,
Martin
get,
to you. Yeah.
yeah, properly get, people paid. And that's the new issue that we're running up against, with all these streaming services, especially, like you have all these streaming services competing with the other one. Well, they're all going to be under new media, meaning they've also found out a way to pay people less, even though they're making millions and millions of dollars.
Right. And I think it's just you
We're
know,
going to end up going back to cable, essentially, because you're going to have
yeah.
so many streaming services.
Right. And so, like I said, I have so many like, and they're must have. Like, I can never get rid of Disney.
Nope.
They came out with theirs what 2 years ago, a year ago. What
Yep.
and decided to start doing their own.
Mm-hmm.
I can never get rid of Netflix. You
Nope.
just the stuff that I can never get. Even if they go up, even if Netflix charges $25,
Mm-hmm.
people are still gonna keep it. Like you just can't.
Yep.
It's the FOMO you're gonna feel about it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the necessity of being able to watch something of value. Again, I go back. Netflix brings something of value to people that people want, and
Yep.
so if you bring those two things, you can't lose. Like I said,
Yep.
become irreplaceable. I always tell my engineers, and this isn't like become irreplaceable. Like I used
Yeah.
to work at a church, and they paid me big, right? And at one point, like I tried to quit
Yeah.
because I was at a point where I was gonna do some transitions,
Yeah.
and I kind of didn't like how certain things were operating. Nothing was critically bad. Nothing really bad happened. I was just kind of
Yeah.
ready to do something else, and they called me. I was like, "Hey man, you can't quit." and like we're gonna meet whatever we have to do in order to keep you. And
Yeah.
so I was like, well, okay. And it showed me like, dude, just become irreplaceable and a necessity, and you're
It's
good, man.
crazy. It truly is. It's crazy, but like you are completely right. And for me, like going back, because I asked you like how you think the industry is going to change. Well, for me, in my opinion, and this
Hmm.
is my opinion, and like you're starting to see it now for like the video or like the TV industry, especially with all these streaming services, and COVID protocols that we're dealing with and all the money that these
Mm-hmm.
people lost, I have a feeling that, we talked about those TikTokers that became famous, or TikTokers or Instagrammers that are becoming movie stars. If you were able to create some sort of content that kept the attention of millions of people, whether it be on TikTok or Instagram or YouTube, a lot of these studios and networks are going to like eyeball these people because they were able to do something with minimal crew, which is also perfect for COVID protocols. It's cheap, and it's you guaranteed a crowd, an audience. And
Oh,
so
dude, that's
that's
key.
exactly what they're going for. So like a lot of like they're rebooting that She's All That. And the
Mm-hmm.
lead is a girl from TikTok. She has zero, I think, zero acting experience. I'm not saying she's a bad actress.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to judge her because I haven't seen the movie. It
Right.
hasn't been made yet, but she got the part because she's got several million followers on TikTok. They
Mm-hmm.
know that we need a movie that's going to draw the young crowd to either purchase video on demand or at the movie theater.
Yeah.
And they want to see,
Right.
this young lady, or they want to see the people on TikTok because they can
Mm-hmm.
watch the movie, and then it's almost like they bring them into their world because there's probably a lot of inside jokes during filming that they were doing that they could go back, or like, and there's also that communication. It's that
Right.
tribe mentality where it's like, we're part of this person's tribe, like we know them. Like, how many people follow Dwayne the Rock Johnson and they know that he has his gym, we work out with him every day because we're there with him when he's saying, yeah, it's time to get it in, blood, sweat, and tears, it's midnight. It's like, oh yeah, he's got daughters. Oh man, I've got daughters too, we're like the same guy. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, and you bring that in, and then he's like, boom, then he hits you like, yeah, I'm working on this movie. I got to watch this because we're so much alike. We like
Right.
to eat a lot of food and work out, and we have daughters.
Yep.
It's like you said, like the industries are geared toward social media. And that's the thing that I'm navigating for myself in terms of like this podcast, or, my website, or even just acting, because I haven't acted. So
Mm-hmm.
how am I going to do like what you said? Like, you have those artists that go in there and they record. You tell them, hey, you need to record, or take some pictures, different angles of the studio session. A lot of times when I'm on set, I can't do that. And I
Right.
should have done that. I should have done that. Looking back now, like
Yeah.
TVTs or anything like that would have been perfect. But
Mm-hmm.
now it's like, okay, so what am I doing? Oh, I could take a picture maybe of my setup, my podcast setup, or like, little clips of what we're talking about. And like, that's going to be the challenge, I think, for me in my industry now is like,
Yeah.
okay, if I'm not smart enough to, or I'm not even saying I'm not smart enough, I don't know if I have the energy to do what some of these TikTokers or Instagrammers do,
Yeah.
because it is a full-time job. I'm doing almost the bare minimum, and I'm still posting daily for these, the podcast, and on the website, and even for my personal stuff. And it's like, man, like getting just a couple of followers, like 2 followers a week, is just, it's so hard,
Right. Right.
so hard. And if people can figure out that magic, combination to where, they got 10,000, 50,000,
Right.
100,000 to like 500,000 followers on Instagram, and they can just say, I'm an actor, and post a monologue, two
Mm-hmm.
monologues, and they have that following, boom. My favorites are the people who can manage to do a whole scene within a minute on Reels or on TikTok, and it's got a beginning, middle, and end, and it's hilarious, or
Mm-hmm.
it's just poignant. They're going to get work because they've figured out the short attention span of America and the
Right.
world, as well as saving money.
Dude, all of my opportunities came from two all 2 minutes. Okay.
Yes.
And I tell you that because I used to be a big speaker too. So I would just go out and speak. Like I
Mm-hmm.
still get phone calls today, like, hey, come speak at this high school, come speak at that high school. And and it all started with, you know, one of my mentors used to play with the Harlem Globetrotters, so he used to bring me on the road and have me, you know, and he would put me on the spot. He's like, you got 2 minutes to tell people your story. And so I used to be like, what the hell am I gonna do with 2 minutes? Like, I can't do enough in 2 minutes. He's back. What's up, Bubba? And so, but it forced me to get good with 2 minutes, because 2 minutes would win me a whole gig or whatever it was. Like, if I knew how to capture the audience, if I was performing a song and he's like, you got 2 minutes for the song, you got to be able to capture them enough to, you know, provide longevity. So anytime I went to a show, an event, it was always, he gave me 2 minutes. He's like, you got 2 minutes, and out of this, you need to create 3 more events for yourself.
Yeah.
So I would do that with 2 minutes, come out there, and then that school be like, man, your story was so great, impactful, come out to this school. So I was like, dude, I got to figure out how to turn this into 5 minutes and into 30 minutes. But he said, if you can't be good with 2 minutes or 1 minute, don't even think about it. Oh, I need 30 more minutes. You know what I'm saying? To make this great.
And that, I think a lot of times, like when you watch a movie, if they lose you in the first 2 minutes, 5 minutes,
right,
then you're lost the rest of the movie. So you're 100% on point with that. So I think our families are calling us because my Rosa's texting me.
So much fun. I know.
Yeah, this is awesome. I love the conversation. I'm sad that we missed you this last time you were here.
Yeah,
down in South Texas, but we'll see you soon. And can we find you on social media?
Yes, everything is Mixed by Brandon. There's no ED, just MIXBYBRANDON. That's Instagram and Facebook. I haven't really jumped on my YouTube channel, which is my fault, but I'm gonna jump on it and start trying to get that going and stuff too, because I get bugged a lot about that too. But so yeah, man, definitely want to do it, man, and keep doing what you're doing, man. It's good to see your face.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to see him. He's growing so fast. All right, everybody. You can catch the podcast. You can follow us on Instagram at Jorge's Isolation Podcast. It's on Instagram, and on YouTube, my channel is under Jorge Chapa, or you could just like hit in the search bar on YouTube, Jorge's Isolation Podcast, and you can catch this as well as many other episodes. You can find us on iTunes and Spotify. We're on Google Play, Stitcher, Pandora, iHeartRadio. Go ahead, download it all, share it with your friends and family. Thank you, Brandon, for taking the time out and chatting with me today. And everybody, thank you for watching or listening. Be kind to one another, and we'll see you next time.
You can check out my website, www.mixedbybrandon.com too. That's the other thing.
All right, you heard him there. All right, everybody, take care. Bye.